What is Oklahoma's path to winning a national championship? That's what we are going to be taking a look at today. It all starts at home against the Alabama Crimson Tide, a team which they did beat earlier on this season, and they managed to do it on the road. And unlike the last time Oklahoma was in the playoffs, this time it is not because of the offense, it has been the defense all season long. Oklahoma has one of the best defenses in the country, which makes them a dangerous matchup for any team that they play throughout their playoff run. Alabama has also been struggling offensively as of late, and there are some concerns that Ty Simpson is dealing with a back injury, which could play a large factor in this game. I think Alabama is definitely the team that needs to be worried here. And Oklahoma really should be able to win this game, especially at home. And if John Montier can play well and really start to get this Oklahoma offense going, we could potentially see them make a little bit of a run in the playoffs this year.
Yep, Jonah hit all the major points. Oklahoma is going to be led by this defense. That is why they won that matchup against Alabama earlier on. And it really is kind of weird to see by looking at that box score. Alabama outgained Oklahoma in every single department, but it was the defense that took care of business. Three fumbles, including two that Oklahoma recovered, and a pick six. If Ty Simpson doesn't suit up, or even if he does, I think this Oklahoma defense is going to cause him a lot of problems, and the Sooners should roll into this next round, where they will face the number one team in the country right now in the Indiana Hoosiers at the Rose Bowl. And this is an interesting matchup. I know Jonah picked Indiana in his playoff predictions, but I went with Oklahoma because of that defense. And I do think, especially after we saw what happened in the Big Ten championship game for Indiana, if Indiana goes up against a good defense, the offenses just need to do enough to get by. And I think both offenses can do just enough with their very good defenses to just squeak out a win. It's just going to come down to who can force the turnovers, who can make a mistake first, or who can rebound from their mistakes. And I do think Oklahoma has a chance to not make any major mistakes. I think they can force Fernando Mendoza to make some sort of key mistake that allows them to get that slight lead that gets them to a win. It's going to be very hard to do, especially since Indiana is already on top of the world with a Heisman Trophy winner, probably the coach of the year, best season in program history. But if Oklahoma's going to do it, it's going to be on the back of that defense, and John Matier is starting to pick up steam as he gets through this playoffs.
Yeah, my main thing with Indiana is just how good their defense is as well. And when it comes down to it, I 100% trust the Hoosiers offense more than I trust Oklahoma's. We've seen them have their issues over these past few weeks, and I think that if anything is going to stop Oklahoma's playoff run, it's going to be their offense because their defense is national championship caliber. It's just it comes down to whether or not the offense can put up points. And if they can against an Indiana defense that held Ohio State to 10, then Oklahoma definitely could win this game, which would move them on to the semifinals, where they have an option of facing one of these three teams. Realistically, probably more like one of two. We're not going to talk about JMU too much just because I don't really see any way that they make it to the semifinals. But Texas Tech or Oregon would be a very difficult matchup for Oklahoma. I think that Texas Tech is my pick to make it here. They've been really, really solid all year long. The only loss coming to Arizona State, and it was a very close game. I just really like how this Red Raiders team shapes up. They have a good defense, about comparable with Oklahoma's, and a very, very good offense as well. So they're well balanced, and I think that they would be able to just score more than Oklahoma if this did end up happening. Oregon, kind of the same thing. They have a great offense, though, and I think that they probably can score on this Oklahoma defense. I just don't see Oklahoma keeping up if it gets to either of these matchups. So their run, in my opinion, would end in the semifinals.
I think it would as well. Oklahoma, if they're going to succeed in this playoffs, are going to rely heavily on John Mateer to do just about everything, as he has done this entire season. both through the air and on the ground. He's been their most productive rusher all season. And unless someone can step up in the backfield, he has to be Superman. And now he can't be Superman. And maybe that is what we see, and that could propel them forward even more in the playoffs, even past some of these great teams like Texas Tech and Oregon. But like Jonah said, I don't see that happening, but it is a long shot, and I'm not going to rule it out. Like Jonah said as well, this is a championship caliber defense that can possibly get them there if they're able to score more points than their offense is, but likely this is where the run ends. But now let's say hypothetically they do move on to the national championship and face off against any number of these teams. And like we've said this entire video, defense is what's going to get there. Defense will be the reason they can possibly win a national championship. Maybe the offense, as the playoffs progress, continues to evolve and get more comfortable. Be kind of hard to see that happening just considering that they haven't been too comfortable or very good at the end of the season. We need to see some steps forward before they actually get into the playoffs. But weird things have happened. But overall, my guess is that Oklahoma's not going to win a national championship this year.
Yeah, any of these teams I think would be a tough matchup for Oklahoma. We know how it went the first time that they played Ole Miss this season. It was a really close game, but realistically, the teams that Oklahoma are most likely to face, in my opinion, if I had to pick three, would be Georgia, Ohio State, or Texas A&M. And I think any of those three teams probably does beat Oklahoma. Mainly going to focus on Georgia and Ohio State here. Georgia's looked really solid really solid towards the end of the year. They struggled a little bit earlier on, and I think this Georgia defense would be very hard for Oklahoma to score on. But realistically, if the Sooners actually make it to the national championship, that means that they have figured out their offensive struggles. And this probably would be a very close game, maybe a little bit lower scoring. It's tough to say who would win, but I think you just got to trust Kirby Smart in that scenario. Ohio State, on the other hand, definitely does have a better defense than Oklahoma or Georgia, and I think that it would just be too difficult for Oklahoma to put up points, that Ohio State most likely wins that one. Essentially, it is possible Oklahoma gets to the national championship game and even wins it, but they are going to need some very favorable matchups, upsets on the other side of the bracket to maybe help them avoid some of these teams they would match up poorly against. And overall, about a 1% chance in my mind that Oklahoma actually is able to get this thing done and win the national championship. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.